Every element of the universe is in a constant state of vibration. The human senses perceive only a fraction of the infinite range of vibration. The word mentioned in the Bible is actually the totality of vibration which underlies and sustains all creation. As you vibrate, the universe vibrates with you.
In this lifetime, we are physical, and we have a unique ability, because we're physical, to kind of bring the etheric, or bring heaven, into the earth.
It was a real struggle trying to fit the 72 amps in. It was almost a moral victory.
To me, bass is a lifesaver.
And it would just penetrate my walls.
Everybody's got a different way of listening to sound. You know, it seems like something that's universal. Can you hear that? But no.
I'm jamming the banging screw.
If you ever are close to a performance or playing of music, and you're close to the speaker and there's a lot of bass in it, you can feel it vibrating inside your chest.
A bass connoisseur.
If you were to go back to the 60s and we would have said bass, you would have thought, you know, of Ron Carter or whatever, but who would have thought that there'd be a whole dance and hip hop culture where they're electronically generating bass from drum machines and going to frequencies that no one's ever even used before.
Here we were at the 50s where we didn't have amplification. You know, you had stand-up bass, and why did you hear it? Had a big box to project out of, right? So this was actually a part of your instrument.
In the 50s, everybody played upright bass, and it was just a guy over there holding a great big instrument. In the 60s, when R&B and the whole Motown thing hit, bass was still there, of course, but it was still just a guy over there in the back. He was really not out front.
With regard to the upright, as the recording industry became more aware of other ways to record the upright. I mean, you had new equipment, you had new stereo equipment that was really sensitive to the bass sounds and bass ranges, you know. You had engineers who were ex-bass players who knew what they wanted to sound like on the record, you know. You had bass pickups coming in now, which made the bass certainly easy to record, clearly louder than it would have been normally on a normal situation. I think all these factors made the bass physically more available.
And as music progressed and as we got into the funk era and the disco craze and all that kind of stuff,
I make your atoms move so fast, expanding your molecules, causing a friction fire.
They then were able to use that low frequency to sort of be a different instrument and a whole different voicing.
Well, I think that when we're talking about bass becoming more audible in recordings between the 50s and the 60s, we're really looking at the advent of the electric bass. An upright bass is kind of hard to capture and get loud enough in a mix when it's working against like electric instruments or instruments that are in a higher octave range.
One of the problems is to get it recorded or get it heard in the clip because it's so low, man. I mean, it can get wiped out by a certain note in the band, you know.
Also, speakers in the past didn't handle as much low end. So that was kind of it wasn't so much of a focus because they weren't trying to activate like the bigger speakers and the speakers that could handle more low end. Also, if you have a band playing in a room and you got an upright bass player and a guitar player and a drummer, and you just want to create a realistic picture of the way that sounds, the least audible thing is the acoustic bass guitar.
As the bass became more sonically available, bass players got another view of what their impact would be. I mean, it's one thing to play with a big band and kind of get lost in the shuffle. It's another to play with a big band with an amplifier, so you at least are sonically equal to everybody else. And with this new presence, I think bass players got braver and took more chances because now they could be heard. And they knew that they could affect the pulse of the music, literally, by having their sound as loud as everyone else's.
Bootsy cleared Market Square Arena one year, the bass was so loud. The band was playing and they were out, and the sound man was getting it up going real well, he's jamming, And all of a sudden, Bootsy just took the bass and went, and you heard the entire Market Square go, and it was like an earthquake.
Well, an earthquake is an event that happens down fairly deep where stresses that are active in the Earth's crust are pushing on the rock uniformly from the center of the Earth on up to the surface of the crust. This pushing process builds up stress until the rock actually breaks. And when it does, the rock slides, and when it slides, it produces an earthquake. Sometimes these are in the inaudible range, that is to say they're below the 20 hertz threshold.
The range of human hearing is approximately 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. That's called the audio bandwidth.
The average textbook gives the range about 20 hertz to approximately 20,000 or up as high as 30,000. The physical description of a sine wave is a cyclic phenomenon that recurs over a period of time.
A lot of wattage makes bass, a lot of power. It takes a lot of power, to power the bass notes.
Bass frequencies are so hard to push through the air. They travel further, but they're more difficult, essentially, to amplify.
The fundamental frequency of the average male voice is about 125 hertz. Women's voice is about an octave higher, with effort, intent, that a male could probably produce something as low as maybe 60 hertz.
The reason men's voices are deeper has to do with the size of the male chest, which is larger. Inside has more resonance, and also the fact that men are taught to speak from their chest area rather than up in their throats.
If you have control and you can boom, boom, and do, like a Bismarcky, hey bro, what's happening? You're a Rozelle. Crunchy. Then yeah, bass is important to beatboxing, but if you're just slobbering and spitting and shit and just like, there's nothing worse than, bass can also be dangerous. Like if you're performing and you just get too close to the mic, that low frequency and that hum just kills the whole thing.
Being a vocal percussionist, most of the songs you deal with low end, so that's why I'm like, give me some bass. You know what I'm saying? So the people can feel it, so the people know what's going on.
Bass is a very sexual music. If you go to a club, DJ puts on drop,
shake that ass up,
Doodoo Brown or whatever, then it kind of makes the women dance differently.
It's all about vibration. Come back to it. I can get real explicit right now, but this is for school. So, and usually I cuss like a sailor, but I'm holding back because this is for a lot of professors that are like 97. They're gonna be seeing this and they're gonna have a heart attack.
A lot of slow jams have bass. Bass is very sexual because you listen to R. Kelly, you listen to H-Town, they got good bass lines, like boom, 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 boom. It's like the grind is like, wow, like creeping up on you. That's what I like about it.
Low frequency, generally in nature, in a very primitive sense, usually means that there's something really large near you.
I think the train has bass. Like when you ride the subway, it's like when you're in the tunnel, you hear like other, like when the tracks bang together.
I get a kick out of when it thunders. I like the rumbling, you know, the rumbling sound that you get, you know. I don't like the high end, I don't like lightning.
They put that in keyboards, thunder.
Before there's an earthquake, there's a lot of birds and horses that get all excited, and the birds fly around crazy and the horses get all jumpy because they actually feel these frequencies coming through the earth. They could be as low as 2 or 3 hertz, I'm sure. And so they get a little warning before the rest of us humans get it, because we actually don't hear that low.
The researchers have found that the elephants make these subsonic, as we call it, noises.
Ah, perfect example. See? She rumbled back.
Low frequency in nature means danger, and I can't think of anything that's not. You know, whether it's a bomb exploding and you hear, whether it's a large animal, whether a lion has a deep roar, you know, you don't hear caw caw from a little bird and say, oh man. But there's almost a visceral reaction when you have something really low frequency. And again, I think the cars coming down the street with the bump and stereo and stuff, it's like, I'm bad, I have the biggest footprint.
My definition of nature, I tend to expand it to like all things. To me, you know, a truck driving down the street is a natural occurrence. And so there's bass there.
Yeah, the piece that's sitting here with me is part of a series called Root Culture. It's an actual tree stump, and it's a bass speaker. And it is a subwoofer. I came up with this idea through this feeling that the tree with its rings represented like sound that was frozen in a way. You know, that it had sound to me as information, and it had information kind of like stuck in here. So I started to think about how I could re-reflect that history out of here, and somehow thought about this idea of the techno-organic, right? So technology and the organic together. And I just had this crazy idea of, you know, what if I carved a tree out and made a bass speaker out of it? Another one that I'm sitting on is a piece, it's another vibrational object. Bass itself isn't just the wave that is the air moving, but is also a frequency that can be transduced through a sympathetic medium, right? Wood is very sympathetic. I can have the bass coming through this chair, so I can just chill in a chair or in a couch, and you feel the bass. And in those times, you start to hear your own body, which has its whole mechanism going. And again, that whole transduction, your bones are transducing frequencies all the time.
God dang! I'd get up, I'd go to the front door, I'd look out, and then I realize it's my own heartbeat.
It's the downbeat of your heartbeat. You know how it goes tunk.
Right.
It's that low end. That's what bass is.
Wow.
So when you get it extended, everybody feels it. That's why everybody likes it.
Wow.
It's the low end of your heartbeat.
Wow. The low end theory, man. Tribe Called Quest, bro.
I don't know if they got one back here, but Tribe's Low End Theory is self-explanatory, like Tribe Called Quest. The album is called Low End Theory. And just the bass on that album, the way it was mixed is unbelievable. Like, they didn't even really get into subwoofers or 808s or anything, but they used a lot of upright jazz bass line samples, and, you know, the bass was just so well mixed. Like, that's a record that's unbelievable.
Rob Power is in the house.
The Low End Theory is a very pivotal rap record. It was the second record, and arguably the best, by a band called Tribe Called Quest.
But the low end theory's here. It's time to wreck shop. I got tip and shot. So whom shall I fear?
The way they pulled things off musically was a very sort of jazzy, very musical mix. You know, they had all these different jazz things going on.
One of the great things hip-hop and rap has done is made the low end of the bass more prominent than it would be under normal recorded circumstances. And I think people aren't responding so much to the pitch as to the weight it brings to the groove. And for all those people, yay!
And this one goes out to my man. Thanks a lot, Ron Carter. on the bass. Yes, my man Rod Carter is on the bass.
Hip-hop kind of changed the sonic landscape of how records are made to the degree that it became a little more required material to have a little more of that body feeling in it than otherwise.
Give me bass. Give me some hot bass. I need some bass, man. Give me a dope bass line. That's what I need. Music ain't nothing without bass. Yeah, who want a bunch of highs and this shit? A whole bunch of... Want some bottom, 808, shit like that. You know what I mean? Old school. It goes boom like in 808. You remember that shit? Yeah, yes I do. That shit was back.
Boom like an 808. Baby, be making.
Thousands of variation of 808 tones. A lot of the Miami bass guys use them. A lot of the drum and bass guys use them.
It's like a bass drum that has a tone to it. So it's kind of halfway between a bass guitar and a bass drum. It's like you're getting both in one sound.
We came out with this drum machine, the TR-808, 1980. The first programmable drum machine in the world. And we came out with it, and it was supposed to sound like real drums. It didn't sound anything like real drums. It sounded nothing like real drums. It was very synthetic. The technology of that day didn't have what they call sampling. And so we tried to simulate real drums with these simple waveforms.
808, old rolling drum machine, which is pretty much where the origin of boom came from, just because of the kick that's in the drum machine. It just sounds like just a low end thud kick, you know, and you can turn the sustain up on it, and it goes from boom to boom.
The TR-808 again has that low end classic, just I don't know, rumble almost of, and you could probably put it on a scope, but I would venture to say that it goes down to 20 Hertz, maybe even below 20 Hertz. Great product. It had a short life though. What happened is we discontinued it a couple of years later, and those instruments kind of found their ways into pawn shops. Hip-hop started to come about at pretty much exactly the same time. And the hip-hop folks were basically, you know, they were kind of born from the street. You know, they didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have these big budgets. They didn't have any record deals.
And the 808 bass drum is that booming low boom that you hear on a lot of rap songs. It's very popular with urban producers.
So you had this instrument that was supposed to sound like drums. Kind of did, but it had this very unusual, cool, synthetic, new, almost wacky sound to it. These tinky little hi-hats and this bass drum that just kind of went on forever at this extremely low frequency that if you've ever heard lowriders pull up next to you, they have this like that kind of comes out at 120 decibels.
It's a kick drum that was created by early drum machines that people used a lot in hip-hop, and it's the thing that makes the Jeep go when you walk by.
Maybe that frequency that circuit put out hits you in a certain way that's just right. You know, it's a tuning fork and it hits some sort of sympathetic mode inside, you know, because I'll tell you that it still makes a difference.
What's interesting is that the 808 sounds have lived on beyond the device itself. You know, what's important to people is not so much the device, because it was kind of a clumsy tool to program drums with, but it's those sounds have lived on.
What's funny about the 808, it never goes out. You look at Africa Bambaataa made Planet Rock, and it was like rock, rock, Planet Rock, then it was like boom, 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 boom. Then today you got Little John, to the window. To the window. To the window. To the wall. To the wall. But it's still a different way, but it's the same 808.
Bass is a long wave, you know what I'm saying? The sound is a long wave, as opposed to like treble, which is like short waves. You know what I'm saying? You got long wave, short waves.
Definitely.
So it contours around everything you see, you know what I'm saying? So that's why you can hear a motherfucker with some 808 way down the block before you even hear the trouble part, what the motherfucker saying.
I would be in my house and I would start feeling, I'd hear this. And I go, oh, he must be outside. I go outside, I'm like, he ain't outside.
Get out here.
And I hear it get a little louder. I'll be sitting out there, a minute later, he come over the hill, and he been bumping. I can
See what I'm saying?
it.
Thanks to Dom,
That long.
my 9.2 Chevy Capri is gonna have that same thump appeal. Understand what I'm saying? I'm on tour out here with little brother, you know what I mean? Making this money, and I'll go home, you know what I'm saying, get my system and shit right. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting me some 100-spoke spinners on my joint. You think I'm bullshit, I'm dead ass serious. 100-spoke spinners, and you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna fill my trunk up with a whole bunch of shit, and ride around, and I'm gonna hurt niggas' ears, you know what I'm saying? In a good way. Not that shit y'all be doing with your trunk all. You gotta bolt your shit down, man.
And torque this down several times, and you can watch the entire door just completely suck in. I'm a DB drag competitor. This is a vehicle that I chose probably 6-7 years ago to compete in the extreme class for DB drags. Extreme meaning pretty much anything goes. We can modify, rebuild the vehicle, bulletproof glass, plexiglass, bolts, steel, concrete, whatever we want to do to them.
They judge it by how much air you move in a car. It's just sound pressure, really. I mean, there's a lot of bass that just shakes a car rather than not being able to hear it. It just shakes it. And that's, you know, basically what bass does. It just rattles everything inside of a car.
When the boom speakers came in is when a more aggressive behavior set in. Call it boom, subwoofer speakers, this crazy, relentless bass.
Everybody thinks we're kind of crazy, insane for building and putting, you know, thousands of dollars into a vehicle that you can't drive, you just compete with.
I got earplugs, for one thing. And every Friday and Saturday night, I would literally screw them into my ears. You know, get a really tight fit. And prior to that, take a sleeping pill and turn on the fans in my bedroom full blast, so it creates sort of a white, I guess they call it white static noise or something like that, to drown it out.
I know what some of these vehicles will do to the inside of a house. It doesn't just shake the windows. I can knock pictures off the wall.
My walls. I'm making my walls thicker.
I got a steel reinforced ceiling, steel pillar braces holding the ceiling and the floor intact together.
1/2-inch wallboard across.
We have 2-inch plexiglass windows, steel reinforced with bolts.
And then on top of that, nail 1/2-inch sheetrock, and that'll be the finished wall to help stop some of the boom coming in. It's not going to stop the boom cars because they're getting louder.
There are 72 1,500 watt amplifiers in here. This is the kind of power that we're talking about for a world champion.
It's not the volume, man, it's the bass.
Screw the chop music is songs slowed down and studded, so to speak. You know, chop means, you know, studded, you know, saying twice.
You know exactly who started it. You know, it was Robert DJ Screw Davis.
I'm gonna let my hands do the talking.
DJ Screw, you know, he invented the
slow down thing.
He invented the screw music, you know what I'm saying?
Before he stumbled upon his invention, he was already the best DJ in Houston, just as in a traditional way. I mean, the first time I heard DJ Screw music, it sounded like the tape machine was eating the tape, like it was slow. It just sounded like it was defective. You would buy a DJ Screw tape like you were buying drugs. You know, you'd have to go to somebody's house, you'd have to wait till the gate opened, security gate, and there'd be a line of people, and you wait your turn, and you go there and give your $200, $300, and he sold the tapes for $10 a piece. Also, you would go and get the stash, you would get the stuff, and come back, and all your friends would gather, and you'd partake in it.
I said, who that, man? Who that talking loud? Mad, cause the models from the south showing pops around.
Well, basically just slowed it down and chopped it up.
Chopping it up. Basically, they hit a certain point in the song and then they go right back to it real quick. That's what they call a double beating.
There was all these cars that were driving by with this really heavy bass sound that was just like shaking the walls of my house when it went by, and I was just going, wow, this is like this new super strain of bass. I mean, this is beyond rock and roll. This is beyond anything I'd ever heard before. The bass was so powerful. It was physically powerful.
I mean, now it's more called slowed, or it's called slab, slow, loud, and banging.
They call them screw heads. The people are into DJ screw, into the slow down stuff.
Screw heads is just, somebody likes to roll and, listen to the DJ, the slow down music, the slab music, and just, zone.
They have a big white styrofoam cup, and it's usually full of some sort of big red, and they pour cough syrup inside it, so they drink it. It's like a 64-ounce styrofoam cup that's got big red and a bunch of cough syrup in it, and it's basically they just sip it all day long.
I like to just blow a blunt and just be chilling,
It just
slows everything down, I guess. I've never done it, but
it sort of gets you in the right mental state. Just like to go see the Grateful Dead. If you go see the Grateful Dead totally straight, they're going to suck. But you take acid, and they're the best band in the world.
The sound he was hearing was influenced by the fact that he was taking quite a bit of cough syrup as a drug. He was going for kind of a very specific response to the drugs running through his system. It's all about chemicals and the way humans respond to things. So,
how does what we might call pharmacology, herbology, affect how we hear things? How do the things we take in, affect how we perceive sound, right? If the body is the receiver, how you have your body may affect your sound. So Screw here was screwing with the sound because he was playing with this, the drugs that took him away, right?
Unfortunately, it killed DJ Screw. It killed the guy who created the craze, because he apparently, what I've heard is for 10 years, every day for 10 years, he sipped cough syrup. And eventually he died of an overdose.
Screw was an interesting nodal point in the history of, particularly Southern, particularly Houston.
It just seemed like in Texas, in particular, they were going for a more psychedelic drugs than in the East Coast or West Coast. And what DJ Screw did, he made rap music psychedelic.
It's just something about Texas. We've been playing it for so long, since '93. So it's pretty much a way of life now down here for the South.
It's it's almost impossible to have a fight if you're stoned on marijuana. If everybody's stoned, you're going to be chilling out. There's not a whole lot of violence around screwheads. Get drunk, smoke weed, listen to music. Let's all try to make it through without anything, going wrong.
know what I'm saying? Third coast, we hold the most. DJ Screw, know what I'm saying?
When I first did Feel the Bass, that song was done because someone took one of my songs and slowed it down, and I didn't like it. So I made that song to kind of go against the system and say, okay, if you slow this down, then you have no bass.
Or Magic Mike, they'll just play records. If you play one of their records, it's just a bass tone that rides from beginning to end and never comes out.
I've blown all kinds of speakers, actually. You know immediately when a speaker is blown just because it doesn't sound right. You're like, something's wrong.
Miami bass is an incredible sound. Again, it's like, it is a car system sound.
Feel the Bass was pretty much the start of the car audio phase of bass music.
If you wanted to drive through the neighborhood or pull in the high school parking lot, you had to play bass music.
Some regions actually use more bass than others in terms of dance music or in terms of rap music especially. Like Miami, the music, there's a subgenre actually called Miami bass.
The Miami bass sound, I can't really expound on too much other than the fact that a lot of people say that I'm one of the originators of it.
What happened in Miami, is happening in Miami, was again a really special investigation of frequency culture with the body.
Like here in my studio, there's a spot that I call the sweet spot. And I'll go and stand in that corner, and if I can feel it rumbling in my chest, then I'm like, okay.
The practical standpoint is that
The ear is theoretically designed by someone who realized that if you could hear sounds in that area, then every noise that happened within your body would be deafening.
And in the clubs down there, they have low frequencies like 20, 30 hertz, rumbling bass.
And if it's not to the point that I want it to be, then I can dial in and say, well, I want it to go 10 hertz, or I want it to be 14 hertz.
It almost, for me, on a physical level, is in the slapback of the bass, right? So the bass comes out, and as it comes back, as it doubles back, that's when, like, you know, the Miami bass comes in. It's like almost that overlap moment when the bass is coming back that it hits again, and it's like the way that happens, I think, is amazing.
The louder you played my songs, the louder their systems got. But if you couldn't handle it, then it would just destroy the systems, it would just tear it up. And so that was a challenge for a lot of people, to be able to play one of Magic Mike's songs.
The future of bass, you know, I never thought I'd see an 8-string bass, but actually in the 60s, that white one right there is a 6-string bass, and that's about a 1964. Tom Peterson in Cheap Trick plays 12-string basses all the time. How many strings can you put on a bass? I don't know.
I think the future for bass is very good. I think the future of bass is very good.
I think it'll be like it was in the beginning, and it always has been, you know? I think that people have experimented with low tones from the very beginning.
I foresee that sometime in the next 20 years, somebody is going to invent a way to defeat the laws of physics, and we're going to get very small systems that in fact produce subsonics.
So now you just don't even know, like, will they make frequencies even lower? Is it even worth it? You know, it's hard to say where it's going to go.
Each chakra has a resonant tone, a note on the 7-note scale. So the base chakra starting with a C, and then the sexual chakra would be a D, and then the solar plexus an E, and then the heart an F, and then the throat a G, and then the third eye would be an A, and the 7th chakra would be a B. Once you're aware of like the chakra system, the idea is to have the energy evenly dispersed. You know, you don't want, I look at it like this, like the average Westerner, if you were to take like an energy photograph of the average Westerner, you would see a lot of energy built up in the lower triangle.
It's because you can experience them. You know, a high tone, your ear experiences, but a low tone, your whole body experiences it. You feel it. And I'm pretty convinced that's why the low tones are so popular.
This is why as a society we're kind of obsessed with sex and money and food and power. But the idea is that we want that same energy to disperse evenly across the chakra system. We're looking for some sort of grounding, you know, something that feels real, something that feels like right here and right now in my existence, as opposed to so much of the information coming in from the outside. And again, yeah, we're drawn to that bass. We're drawn to that low tone.
Om, like Amen and Amin, means the one that manifests all that is. Om is the word referred to in the Gospel of St. John. As we know, through the study of Western subatomic science, all things are in constant vibration. The totality of this vibration is the sound current Om, the primordial throb of the universe.